Okay, I guess every day until winter comes around is going to be a demotivational day. Um, so I was really afraid that today was going to be even more nothing than it was already threatening to be. Because what a lot of it was just watching timers go by and have a lot of it look like this, and just waiting for this to go up and finish baking all of the frames that it needs. But the thing that I was working on earlier today had a much higher resolution, so I believe that before I hit go on this, it said, oh, it's 65. So this current example is running at a resolution of 65, and my end frame was 300, not 250. So this example is a lot less of a workload than what I was working on, but it would take forever just to get to like 10 or 15%. Um, but one of the cool things is with this particular add-on is that I can scrub through while it's doing that just to kind of see what it's doing, what's happening. I mean, up until the frame that it's at. So it's currently at 170 something right now. So if I go past that to like 82, 83, 84, there's nothing because there's nothing there. Um, but the discovery came around an interesting little interaction that happened. So if I take these our inflow and I just start adding keyframes to it, and then we bake that, we will have an interesting um, fluid distribution section. So then we get something like this. It's like playing Galaga or Centipede. um, so that's how things were sort of basically doing it. But the way that I had it set up for the project was my sphere, my inflow was actually attached to an armature. And so then let's give the armature some keyframes. And then if we bake that, the fluid simulation then works like this. And so that was an interesting sort of thing, but then I realized the difference between the two was that one was the inflow itself had keyframes, and then in the other scenario, the inflow did not have any keyframes but was instead being controlled by something else. So if the simulation doesn't know what keyframes, it's supposed to be moving on, then it's just going to stay there, right? And actually, I set this up wrong again. These weren't actually parented to one another. I had the child of constraint on, and it was attached to this armature. And then we can just set inverse. Okay. It's the same thing though, right? So we do this, and it goes, but the simulation does not follow. So I was like, well, I um this is not good. It's a motivation killer right there, because you have all these intricate, flow emotions happening, and then your simulation just sits there in midair. Like that's no fun. Um, so the way that I read to solve this problem is we need to give this keyframes. But there's an apply here, but that just gets rid of the child of constraint. Like usually there's a convert to shape keys, which is like down here. Or sometimes there's like um, there's another setting that's kind of like that, but it's like, apply this as something that's visible here or over here. So what happens is we go into object and we bake action. And then we select from what frame to what frame we want to have this happen on. We want visual keying so that we can have it show up down here. And then I think everything else is correct. I think everything else is how I did it before. Child of constraint, controlled by a bone. Okay, let's just run it. So now, I guess I should clear the constraint first. Anyways, this is sort of the solution. It didn't it before it adhered to the bone still as if it were still a part of the bone. Let's get rid of the child of constraint. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we needed to clear the constraint. So now if we bake this, because this now has keyframes that the simulation can acknowledge that it exists, it can have motion. And that is pretty much the triumph of the day. Otherwise, it was just trying to not dehydrate.